But anyway, nonetheless, welcome ladies. It is Female Football Week, and we've obviously seen it adapt over the years and build and grow, and how important has it been and is it with you girls moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's obviously an important milestone to celebrate, and without the exposure and the promotion of women's football, it's obviously not going to grow. So speaking about it, being here today, having the conversations, it's essential for the growth. So yeah, it's definitely exciting, and I look forward to the celebrations ahead.
Are the clubs doing enough, or can we do more?
I think there's always room for improvement, but I like to kind of take a step back and see where we've come from. So for me personally, growing up, there weren't any girls' teams at all. So, there weren't teams to promote as such. So to be able to see so many different age groups for girls and so many different levels as well, I think it's good that we're kind of here to promote that, and, just different things that clubs are doing to help promote women. I think it's definitely headed in the right direction. I know, we're running a few things at City for Female Football Week. We've got mothers, daughters, six-a-side football games, and we've got a pizza and pasta night, and then we've also committed to doing a gala night as well at Gambaros, so where we raise funds for pancreatic cancer as well. So I think these are the sort of things that clubs are committing to now to promote the women's game. So for me, I think it's definitely headed in the right direction, but like I said, I think we can always do more, and I think in the coming years we'll probably see these events get just bigger and better.
Yeah, it's definitely I don't think it's any secret. I don't think it's any coincidence that the clubs that are investing heavily in the women's game as well are the ones who are sort of taking steps ahead, like the likes of Lions and the likes of City now, leading the way with the women, which is great. But yes, as you say, we can always do more. How about you, Abbey? How do you feel about Female Football Week?
Yeah, I think it's just exciting. It's so much fun every time it sort of comes around. There's just a buzz around all the girls and all the younger girls as well. I know last year when I was at Thunder, they, not even just Female Football Week, but we had a lot of sessions once a month with all girls. And I think just little things like that, we don't have to just sort of bring it into 1 week or 1 month. It should just be all the time. And it's simple things like that, having, girls go free to the games, little things like that. But yeah, I think it's just exciting, just celebrating all the great players that have come out of clubs, coming to clubs, and yeah, it's just heaps of fun each year. Yeah,
it's pretty clear. Obviously, we had the World Cup last year, I believe. I get mixed up between last year and this year sometimes. But massive. Every game in Brisbane was packed. Didn't matter who was playing. So there's obviously a lot of interest and a lot of support, which is great.
Yeah. As you said, growing up, there was none of that. So we haven't kind of got there yet, but it's great to see the clubs getting involved and investing in it, and also the Matildas are doing so well, even furthering the brand that is women's football, I guess. I think also football as a code has to do this, because you've got other codes now investing so much in the women's game. Yeah, so soccer always used to be netball, soccer. That was the only real option now for girls. So I think football as a code has to sort of keep progressing, so we don't fall behind like the WAFL and the WNRL and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see how we go.
I think the World Cup has made a huge impact. We've seen it just at a club level. Since the World Cup started, we've had over 200 girls trial at City from the ages 9 through to 17. We've had to put extra teams in 12s and 15s academies. And I think by next season they're actually hoping to have 2 teams per age group. So the number that we've actually had trial is 3 times what it was the year before the World Cup. So we've noticed it definitely at a club level, but I think, despite that as well, you can see that it's affected the whole nation.
Yeah.
You've got the government, pledging to money to women's sport in general, so not even just football. You can see that the World Cup's had a positive effect on women's sport in Australia, not just football. So seeing a lot of positivity come from the World Cup, having it here in Australia, and how well the Matildas did
I feel like even like reflecting back on attending those games was just so
Yeah.
surreal to feel like,
It was
you know,
such
we
a good
actually
month, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was so cool. And as you said, like the growth that it's provided, not only to people who were involved in sport or football, like I've had multiple conversations with people who aren't necessarily into football, but ever since the World Cup, they're now experts on football. And they just love it. So it's, really pleasing to have those conversations with people who I suppose never really was into the sport before, and they're now continuing to watch the games and have those conversations, saying, did you see that game last night, or did you see how they played? And I think sparking those conversations as well is really pleasing to see.
I work at a barber shop, and when I was playing for the Raw, like I would be saying, "Oh, I have a game this weekend." They're like, "Oh, like for the men's," and I'm like, "No, like
There's a women's team.
And I had to really explain it, and be like, "Oh, so like the Brisbane Raw men?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah." So there's women, like, and it's such a crazy conversation. I'm like, "Holy cow!" Like I have to really explain this, and now like there's kids coming in and be like, "Who's your like?" I see they have a jersey on. Some like, "Oh, you play soccer?" Get chatting, and like, "Who's your favorite player?" It's like Sam Kerr. I'm like, holy, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think especially local, I think the Raw women are probably even more like better followed than the men's team.
By
the young ones, especially like young girls going along to the women's games. Like,
I think that's got a lot to do
more
with
relatable.
how like they make it a family day out.
I was gonna say, it's definitely,
the women, like it's at Perry Park, it's in the afternoon. You can take your kids there, sit on the hill. Whereas the men, like it's late kickoffs, it's a big stadium, it's hard to get to. Like, I mean, I think it's great, but it'd be nice if the men took a lead out of the women's sports.
Absolutely.
But absolutely. Just on that as well, looks like we might be getting an Asian Cup.
I did see that
in Australia.
Were going for that.
Breaking news! What a scoop you've got.
We're in for a chance.
Yeah, I saw that. I think someone pulled out and
off the back of the World Cup, and while that's done, like having an Asian Cup can only be even better, So
I think we was talking about like girls and like growing up and whatnot. I was at Bunnings on the weekend and just jogged my memory. There's a little girl, she would have been maybe 3, and she had like a Matilda's jersey on with Sam Kerr on the back, and I was just thinking like, wow, like this kid, that's like crazy. You never would have seen that. Well, me growing up, definitely not. I guess that moves me on to my next question. I'll direct this one at you, Steph. What age did you make a start in football? What were your influences, and what club, and what made you get into this sport?
You can say, how long do we have?
Write them all down.
So I started playing at the age of 10, and I was introduced to football at school. So it was school sport, and at the end of the term, the coach came up to me and just recommended that I sign on for a club team. He thought I had potential. So my best friend at the time had just signed on for the under 11 boys team at South United. So much to my mum's dismay, I signed on as well.
She was not excited.
No, she was not excited. I was also at the time playing basketball and tennis, so it was a lot of driving around for her. But I spent a couple of years in the boys team at Souths playing as a left winger. And then I was scouted by Pi Augustine to go and play women's at Mount Gravatt Hawks. So I played resis there in my first season, and then I think I was 13 or 14 when I debuted for the women. So it was a little bit different back then. They didn't have like the age restrictions. I think now you have to be 15 or something to play for the women. So played a couple of seasons there, and was training with like the BSD boys representative team as well, because again back then there wasn't a girls rep team. So from there I moved into the Queensland Academy of Sport, which was coached by Mike Mulvey, and it was a much different setup back then. So like now the Queensland Academy of Sport has different age groups, whereas then it was just like one elite team.
Yeah.
So stepping in there as a 14-year-old, I was, up against current Matildas and Australian players, and it was obviously quite daunting, but it was a really good experience for me. And I definitely found a lot of role models in that team for me and idolised a lot of those players.
Who were you with?
So I would probably mention these. That the sad thing is I'd probably say a few of these names and most people wouldn't know who they are because again, I think the exposure at that time was pretty limited. So I was playing along the likes of Kim Ravel, Tracy Bartlett, Claire Nichols, who's probably one of the best keepers Australia's had. Kate McShay, that might be a name that you know. Kim Carroll came through later as well. So, playing with those sorts of that, caliber of player really helped me develop my game. But unfortunately, I decided to leave because I was sort of getting towards the end of my studies at school and football just wasn't a career option then. I just focused on study and went back to NPL level. Went over across to Redlands, where obviously I was coached by Ray Dower, who's been, a very important mentor for me throughout my football career. And that's, we had quite a few successful seasons there. And, that's when I was picked up from the Brisbane Roar. So did 2 seasons with them and then back into NPL and obviously then moved on to Capalaba FC, where I spent about 7 years. So that was a really good change for me because it was kind of looking at it from a different approach. I was taking a step down in the competition and helping them to try and build something up. So I spent 7 years there and had like over 130 caps for their women's team, which was cool. And then, in a similar sort of situation, moved across to Brisbane City. So been with them and with Dave for the past 3 years and just loving what they're doing there with the women's program. And
you're going all right.
Yeah. So it's been a long season, but it just kind of feels like it's just flowed on from last year. Really enjoying my football and where I am at the moment.
It's good, yeah. But you, Teags, did you get your start? Were you just chasing Big Brother around and
honestly,
just way better than him?
I actually feel sorry for him because I grew up as like a tomboy and just as you do as a little sister, you just follow your brother around. So I definitely followed his footsteps. He was at Capalaba and I had followed him to Capalaba. He was so pleased about that. I played there for quite a few years.
He wouldn't be pleased if you turn up at Rochdale now. You'd probably get a start over.
Let's not talk about that. So I actually got to play alongside with Steph and we were there a couple of years together. And was definitely a good club to be a part of. I think that's the first club from memory where they really had a big culture on female football and were quite successful with it. So I was really lucky enough to play at Capalaba and I played there for a number of years. And then I moved to Easts and I played, I think I actually had my first senior appearance there and I just thought it was so cool because the following day at training I got an envelope and there was $50 in it. So that was something that I clearly remember.
So you're getting paid more than what we were.
I still remember that.
I never got the envelope.
But so I played there for a couple of years and then I was also studying at the time. I was studying teaching and found it quite difficult to balance, football, part-time job, and then as well as studying as well. But when I had graduated, I moved to Cairns for a year. And although I tried to keep up my football there, it just didn't really work out. It wasn't something that I was enjoying there. So I actually had the year off football, which...
bit of a gap year.
Yeah, I did have a bit of a gap year. I didn't plan to, but that's just the way that it had panned out. And then returning, I came back to Capalaba and played a couple of seasons there. I remember Steph was there, Caitlin Torpy, Larissa Crummer, Amy Chapman. The team was stacked. So it was a great bunch of girls there and I learned a lot from them. And then I particularly remember playing against Lions and I was just like, that team looks so cool, the way that they strut in, I feel a bit intimidated. That was just the team to beat. So whenever I had played against them, there was particularly this really annoying redhead called Marielle. And I was playing against her and she is
annoying because she's a good player.
No, she's one of my best friends, I can say that. But she's just unreal. Technically, she's a Brazilian. She knows what to do with the ball at her feet and so fit as well. So she was just running rings around me and I was just like, wow, like she's so good. Like
They still signed her.
yeah, well, eventually it wasn't until the end of that season, and I was like, oh, like it would be, you know, really cool if I could, you know, make that transition. And sure enough, I did, and yeah, it was quite an experience, like quite an eye-opening experience of just a step up from, I suppose, like professionalism and the facilities that was provided, and just like, you know, coaching staff, and also like really having a big care factor for female footballers. Like they made it very clear that both men and women are equal, and whatever the men get, the women get as well. So I was just in awe of what I was a part of, and I obviously had 3 seasons there, and yeah, it was amazing to surround myself with, you know, high quality players that definitely enhanced my own game. And obviously with that we were quite successful and won a few trophies, and that was definitely something to, yeah, I suppose be proud of, and just do it with the girls. A bunch of girls that I was with was incredible. So I think, like, I don't know, at least 10 or more are now in the A-League, so there's a big chunk of talent there, and I was very fortunate enough to play alongside them. And yeah, obviously, as I said, the coaching staff and the training sessions, the intensity was just a step up, and yeah, really enjoyed my time there. And then, yeah, I noticed that all these players around me were getting signed to A-League, and I was like, oh, what, like, this can actually happen. Like, I suppose growing up, I never really had that aspiration of, oh, I want to become a professional. Like, as Steph said, like, I think realistically, that wasn't really an option as such, because it doesn't provide you enough income. So it can't be your reality. It's nice to be a part of, but you have to have something to back you up. You have to go and study or have something to fall on. So yeah, I never really grew up with that goal as such, but as I got older and I surrounded myself with, you know, good players, as well as the game growing and those opportunities arising, and yeah, I really saw myself reaching for that goal, and with that, like, working alongside Rob and other players around me who have been in that situation. I even reached out to Steph, like, saying, you know, like, I'm interested in making the step up, like, you know, what are some things I can do to make myself recognised. And yeah, I had setbacks. Like, I remember reaching out to coaches, not getting replies. I didn't think it was as easy as I had thought, not as in, like, I suppose I had this idea, oh, if you play well and you play well consistently, you're going to get picked up, which I think some people do. However, that wasn't the case for me. I didn't realise, like, you know, the communications that you have to
network.
Yeah, and like highlight reels, like, I think that's the most cringy thing. Like, making videos every
You wouldn't be the only person, I think, so, unfortunately.
Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, I had reached out to a few coaches, had a few setbacks, was quite disappointed with it because I thought that I was playing well, but it just wasn't the right timing. And then, yeah, it wasn't until like a couple of weeks into the season that I had a call from Gareth, and he had reached out for injury replacement.
Yeah, so it was a loan, like an injury replacement to start with.
Yeah, and that was for Talitha Kramer. She was injured at the time, and it was an 8-week contract. It was something that I was obviously thrilled about, because it was like a stepping stone to something.
A chance.
Yeah. And I was fortunate enough with work that I was able to try and find some sort of balance between full-time working as well as, you know, training every day. I'm just lucky that I had the support from my principal to be given that opportunity. But yeah, so I had an 8-week contract, but I trained the whole 8 weeks and ended up only playing 3 games. But, you know, within those 3 games, I tried to make the most of it. I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. I just remember, like, my debut, and Katrina Gorry, like, just came and tapped me on the shoulder, and she's just like, you know, you've got this, you've been training so hard, like, just get out there and do your thing. And that memory will stick with me forever. That was just such an awesome experience. And yeah, so I had my 3 games there, and I was just like hungry for more. So I worked hard and just critiqued areas of my game that I needed to improve, and just hoped that the following season that I could attain a full-time contract. And Yeah, I did, and it was
So they got you back.
Yeah,
You started the season pretty well. And
Yeah.
There was a certain performance against Courtney Vine that stuck out. Fresh off a World Cup, made her look like rubbish.
Yeah.
That was she's fast. She's so fast.
didn't look it against
Yeah. I was tired. I was wrecked after that. But yeah, once again, like that's just such a cool experience. And I suppose when you get to surround yourself and play against those type of players, like it just inspires you to be more and be better. And yeah, it was definitely something that's in my memory bank, and I'll remember that one for a while.
It's good. Still with the Roar,
Yeah.
of course, for now. What's the future for you? Because as you say, you're a full-time teacher.
Yeah.
You're teaching the nation's future while you chase a dream.
Yeah.
Where to for you now?
Yeah,
Beyond
look,
this season.
I'm not too sure at the moment. I'm in my off season, so I'm back to full-time work at the moment. So it definitely is a bit of a balance, but as I said, I am very fortunate that I have the right support networks around me in making that possible. But in terms of the future, I'm not too sure just yet. I'm enjoying a few weeks rest. I feel like I went from NPL season, which was extended, and finals and so on, and then straight into Raw. So I didn't really have a break as such. So I'm enjoying. I think it's only been 2 to 3 weeks now.
School holidays in there as well.
Yeah.
Luckily,
but I know I won't be sitting around for forever, because I start to get agitated, and I'm even watching the girls playing, and I'm like, okay, it's the time to get the boost back out. So yeah.
good. How about you, Abbey?
So I grew up in Toowoomba. I started playing, I think, first year high school. I just followed my sister into that. The coach was like, your sister's good, you're going to be good. I was like, okay. I was like, alrighty then. I was just like straight in playing with my big sister. I don't know if she liked it or not, but I was always like, it was just me and her up top every game. So it was pretty cool to play all of high school with your big sister. That was pretty sweet. We were pretty good together too, so it was a lot of fun. But played one season of just like local league, because I was sort of just getting into it. I honestly didn't know anything about the sport, to be fair. I just like jumped into it and played one season, and sort of, I know everyone was kind of saying, like, you should probably go play for Southwest and all this stuff. I was like, okay, like I was pretty chill, like I had no clue. I was like, yeah, all right, I'll do that. All my friends were there, so I was like, sweet, I'll do that. Carpool with them each week or whatever. But played a couple of seasons with my own age group in like I think it was like the BPL or something back then. I don't know. It's changed so many times. And then I went into Toowoomba Raiders when I was 14. I was versing Steph and getting flogged by Redlands each couple of weeks. But it was like good in a way, being so young, playing with the women's team. Like I definitely like wouldn't have got half as far as I have if I wasn't training with those better, like going up against grown women each weekend. Like you get a tough skin on you, and you play tougher as well. So definitely grateful that I did push myself when I was younger and played up a lot. And then sort of, I don't know, I was playing really good, and sort of like Teagan said, like playing really well and winning accolades and things each year, and just sort of didn't really go anywhere. And it was like, I didn't know about W League and things like that. Like I said, like I was sort of just a bit oblivious to it all, just enjoying playing. And coach sort of mentioned things, and I was like, oh, okay, like you can like play it professionally, and sort of went to a couple games. I think I remember going to a game and watching Steph in high school when you had player cards back in the day. I think I have one signed maybe.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I was got it tonight, but
Pull it out of
just get it signed again. But it was just sort of like, I don't know, just realizing, okay, like I probably could be good at this, and it is something that I really like now. And stuck with Raiders for a while, and then it changed into Southwest Thunder, which we have now back home, and played there a few years, and decided to go over to America. So I went over there for I think I just went over there for a year, just the college thing. Had a bit of fun over there.
Spring break.
Studying and stuff. Did all my homework and stuff. But yeah, really enjoyed it over there. And I think that was probably the first time that I really noticed like how serious they took it over there for the women as well. Not just in general, but like our team was so important to the school. And, you know, like you walk in the hallway and be like, oh, like good game, like good luck. And yeah, you just felt like that hype and you're just so excited to play each week because you're like, I'm like a big deal around here.
Just on that, when you got back to Australia, were you like looking around going, why aren't we?
Where's my fans?
Why aren't we putting it on this sort of pedestal? Because like if there's one thing that the US do, it's their college sports and how they promote their women's national team. Is that something that you really saw a difference in when you got back to Australia?
Yeah, definitely. And I think I really struggled when I got back, to be completely honest, because like I didn't even go to a great college. I just went to like a junior college, and it was wild. Like it was so exciting each week, and you know everyone knew who you were, and it was posted all over and over social media and things like that. And when I got back, it was like, yeah, you played in the NPL, and then like that, no one knew who you were. Like no one really cared. Like coming from Toowoomba, that was like sport is our thing in Toowoomba. So like I was in the newspaper every week, but that was just normal. Like and looking back now, I'm like that is pretty cool that like as a high schooler, I was in the newspaper every week. You know, that's pretty sweet. But I definitely like I did struggle with that because I was like, why? Like this is a big deal that we play in such a good league like this, especially when you have those young girls like myself at the time, like, and Steph back in the day, like 14 playing in women's, like that's a big deal. And now I think we see it heaps with like A-League girls getting their debut and they're 14, and it's like, you know, we hype it up, which they should be, but back then it just sort of wasn't really a big deal, I guess. It was just like, you play soccer, like that was kind of it. So
it's a hobby.
Like, it's just a hobby. Exactly. And that's what it has been for a long time until recently. Like you sort of realize you can make not a living, but you can get something out of it, I guess, if you stick to it. So yeah, coming back from America was like a big eye opener. But in saying that was my goal. Like when I was over there, I probably wasn't challenged half as much as I hoped I would have been, and I didn't know what I wanted to study and things like that. So I didn't want to waste 4 years over there, like sort of studying something I wasn't passionate about just to play football and maybe ruin chances coming back and things. Like I was only young. I was like, I'm coming back home. Like I really want W League is what I want to do. Like it just clicked when I was over there. I was like, nah, like I've got to go back home, give it a shot now. Otherwise, you know, like live with that regret of staying here and studying something silly and things like that. So came back, and yeah, I think I spent like the next 2 years just at Thunder playing away, and we had one really good season. I think we came 4th or 5th, and there was just a lot of hype around our team, and I think that was probably the first year in Toowoomba that like the news and things were really focusing on us. And I think, I mean, it's sad to say, but the men weren't doing that good that year. So, and we were. So I was like, oh, sweet, we'll put the camera on them. And
spotlight on the women.
Yeah, and to be honest, like, thank God, because that's probably why I got picked for this Raw game. Like we had, we were asked to have a trial match against the Raw, and we're like, us like, what the hell? Like, no way. Like, are you serious? Like, we were so scared. We were like, we're gonna get flogged. Like, we were just like, you know. But coming from Toowoomba, like, we had never been good. Like, during Raiders, like, we were flogged every weekend, but we still showed up every weekend. Like, trained 3 nights a week to get flogged every weekend. But it was just
resilience that day.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'm used to it now. If we lose, I'm like, whatever. But yeah, it was just like, I don't know, so weird, I guess, like to not have, I don't know, like something to go towards, I guess, in that sense. So when I did come back, I was like, I got to give it a shot, you know, and then we had that game and played really well. And it's probably like one of the best memories. I just remember like schooling Polks and having the shot, and like it went straight to Macca, but she saved it, and I was just like, I was just like, oh my god. And my sister after the game, she was like, you schooled Polks, like, and everyone was just hype as. And then Mel sort of spoke to our coach after, and I got a 2-week trial with them. And I was so nervous. I was like, oh my god, I can't go to this thing. Like I almost didn't go because I was just like, there's gonna be a mistake. Like I know that I'm good, but I was like, there's no like.
So Polknor was going to come back.
I was like, I can't face her again. But like
your first tackle.
In that team, it was like Chappie, Minnie, Polks, Macca, Rasso, Sonny Frank. Like it was stacked. I was like, there is no way that this kid from Toowoomba is going to go in there and get picked. And I was like, but I went there 2 weeks and trained so hard. I was like, if anything, if I don't get a position, it's fine, but I want everyone to know that I gave it everything and I worked my absolute butt off for every second. And I was such a hard worker in every session. In every session I'd be told, like, you're training so good. And eventually got a contract and spent 3.5, 4 seasons with them, and back in the NPL after that, went to Capalaba. I think I played both of you. Like,
Even you were at Capalaba.
I played at Capalaba as well. All right.
Don't get used to it.
Capalaba Rejects podcast.
But back in NPL, Capalaba, Western Pride for 2 seasons. Went back to Toowoomba last year and South this year. And it's been great.
There you go.
Yeah.
What a journey.
I know.
Wow. Guess one thing that I take away from that is like every single one of you, like when you've spoken about when you get your opportunity, it's just like, I don't care if I don't get picked. I don't care. I'm just going to make it, like I'm just going to give it everything.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's so many blokes out there that just have this mortgage on, like they come through this age groups and whatnot at NPL. And I think that's the difference between the women's game and the men's game at the moment. They have this like entitlement that I'm playing NPL 23s. I should be getting first team.
Yeah.
It's a given right.
I should be getting an opportunity. Whereas the women are like, I just want to work so hard. And I think that's your makeup, because you all have that, like, I don't know, lovely instinct, or maybe you don't, I don't know, but like you all have that hard working mentality, and I see it, I guess we probably both see it with our wives as well. Like you girls have all said that you have to have a fallback because you can't make enough money out of it, and you're always thinking about the bigger picture, whereas us blokes are just like so selfish, like in our own mind. Like I just think it's it's great.
Well, you said it before, it's resilience.
Yeah.
Like the resilience that builds, and as you say, like you go to a trial, not everyone's going to a trial thinking I'm just going to work harder than everyone else.
No.
Because people go and think, well, I'm a better player. So
Yeah.
they'll pick me based on that.
And I think, like, coming from Toowoomba, it's always been the case that you go to, state championships and things, and we could have the best player there, but you wouldn't get picked because you're just not from Brisbane. You're not amongst it all, You're just this little person in a little town that comes to this town each week and plays. Like it just
we're both country boys as well.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Queensland having a country and a metro team, like,
well, yeah,
I would never
exactly.
have played for Queensland.
No.
And that's the thing, like with Toowoomba, if that NPL team or FQPL team was to fall, like there's just nothing there. And it's so good. Like I think Steph mentioned how many girls had signed up for City. Our sign-ons for this year at Thunder were up 200% for girls. Like we had to tell some girls, like, we don't have space for you, and that's never ever been the case in Toowoomba. Like it's always been like, please, like, can we take you from your game and like quickly come over here and sit on the bench for us? And now it's sort of switched. Like we're struggling to find boys up in Toowoomba to play for the younger teams. Like that's how much like the World Cup and stuff has changed the effect on it all. And it's crazy to see. Even like last year, I think we obviously did well last year at Toowoomba and made the grand final and things, but we had each sort of game, if we won, we'd have like all the little girls, our mascots, come in and sing the song. But towards the end of the year, we had all the little boys in there, like they all sing, and I was like, this is like, I looked at my sister, I was like, there's little boys in here like cheering with, they wanted to walk out with us. Like
it's cool.
That would never happen back in the day. Like it'd be like, oh, you play, like you just, it just would never happen. It was such a cool thing to look around and be like, there's little boys that love us and like think we're so cool. Like that's crazy. Like nowadays,
it sounds
wild.
crazy, but like how good. I mean,
it's
like,
awesome,
even in the men's game, like you don't see little girls getting around because they can't relate to blokes playing.
But I think too, like there's a lot of little boys with big sisters that like idolise their older sister and stuff like that. So it's probably like it's like, good to see.
The World Cup though, like kid boys getting around saying like the Matildas, like how good are they? You know what I mean? Like going to those games, seeing the girls like perform the way they did.
Even saying their favourite players, like female players, you know, Sam Kerr.
As you said, some of the names that you mentioned that were gone through and played for the Matildas back then. I'm being honest, I didn't know one of their names.
Exactly.
But so now you could almost name the whole team.
Yeah.
But it's not even just Matilda. Like, you see the girls going to play for Arsenal, for Chelsea, for United. Like these are like little boys and little girls, their favourite club. They support. And they've got Australian girls playing for these clubs. So good.
I kind of want to hear more about this player card.
Steph, tell us about the player card.
The 2008-2009 Raw.
Yeah.
The grand final team. Tell us about that.
I think Abbey mentioned a few of the girls that were in that team. Looking back, the team that we went through with that year was absolutely stacked. And I think if I look at the starting 11, I think every single one of those players were either Matildas or they ended up becoming a Matilda. So, I was playing we had Casey Dumont in goals, who is, as everyone knows her, the penalty shootout queen.
She's down in Melbourne now?
Yeah, she's with Victory. She's moved to Central Coast.
Central Coast, I watched them on the weekend.
Just in the penalty shootout. So we had, Casey Dumont. We had players like Alicia Ferguson, Kate McShay, Claire Polkinghorne, Tamika Yallop, Elise Kellen-Knight. So again, for me, playing, I was obviously a bench player in that season, but to be able to come off the bench and play with those sort of players, is definitely a highlight of my career. Like going through the inaugural W League season to say that we won the premiership and the grand final, like no one else can ever say that. That's the first year that the league was put in place. So that was obviously a really, really proud moment for me, and probably, if not the pinnacle of my career, I guess. And obviously being coached by Jeff Hopkins as well. So I think he's considered the most successful coach in the Women's A-League. So, I actually don't remember the playing card thing.
That's a blatant
we weren't actually given the playing card. I would love to see that. I would actually love to see that. That would
you see, like now, like for all of you, like that could be a little girl coming up to you, you guys, and it's just it sticks in your head.
Definitely.
I mean, I can remember Dust when he come up to me when I was
I'm thinking of my daughter running up to you after we went and watched it at Suncorp earlier in the year.
She doesn't remember, mate.
Too many kids.
It is so special having like obviously little girls as well as younger boys holding up posters or wanting to give you a high five or a cuddle or and there's more and more around the pitches and stadiums, and that's something that's so special, is that you can have such a big impact on little ones. And also like as we're talking about boys, like that was just, I feel like we've all grown up with this stereotypical like boys versus girls, and you would never have a boy want to be on the same team as a girl, or like even at school I see mixed teams of boys and girls. Like it's not a boy versus girl team, which I remember in primary school, Sonny Franco. That was my little buddy at primary school, and we were the only two girls who played football, and the rest were boys, and we were always like, how they'd like pick, okay, 1, 2, 1, 2. We were always the last. But it is so surreal. Like even the boys at school as well. When's your next game? What time? Is it going to be broadcasted? Like all of those questions, and the interest that sparked is unreal.
We have like a really our technical director, he's really passionate about women's football, Leo, and he is bringing a lot of the younger girls to our games. And you kind of just think they're there as a token to walk you out, but they're not. Like these girls know everything about you. They're following like your career. They're following like this. One of the young girls made me a bracelet with my name and my number on, and you know, she came up to me after the game. She knew how many goals I'd scored. She knew my name. Like so, they're not just there as a token. Like they're literally they're following you every step. Yeah, absolutely.
My sister has this one little girl up in Toowoomba that. Like she's everywhere. Everywhere Mel is, she's there. Like it's crazy. Mel, they had a game. I think it was at the Sunny Coast, and she drove like that's like a 3-hour drive from Toowoomba to the Sunny Coast just to watch Mel play. Because she's just like Mel is the coolest person ever. Like she has her captain's band on. Like last year at the grand final, how you can like get those shirts made up. She got it made up with 15 and Lloyd on the back.
So
like just like little things like that. Like. It's so cool to see. And even like the grand final last year, we had a bus full of kids pretty much coming up, and I think we were the only team to sell out from that shirt making business because they all wanted shirts with names and numbers on it. Like it was massive for Toowoomba, I guess, and like for those little girls to be like, wow, like, you know, they made a grand final, we can make a grand final. Like, and now this year, like they're all signed up and they all like they're so excited to play because they're like, oh, like you can actually like you can play Suncorp. Like, they're just like the hype around it is so cute to watch and see, and it's like, oh, it just like melts your heart when you see them.
Well, this is the beauty of like the coverage that the game gets now, because the little girls can relate to someone who's on the screen or who's playing on Suncorp Stadium.
Yeah, that's definitely coming.
I can do that one day.
So that's my thing in high school. I didn't know about A-League or anything like that until my soccer coach Peter Broadford, like he's a very well-known coach and like is unreal, but he organised a trip to go watch the Raw's game at when it was like Cusack or something like that, and that was the first time I was like, oh wow, like there's like a soccer league like for girls. I was like, this is crazy, and I would have been like 2009, so I was like 13, 14. I was like, that's when I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sweet. So like, and then from then I was like, oh, okay, like I know this person, and like start sort of looking at more. You weren't just seeing it. You had to like sort of search it.
The best thing too is like, I'm not sure what the rules are now, but when they used to come from the W League, all the girls would sort of filter back to like the NPL side. So like you could see them on TV, and then you could go watch them on the weekends as well, like at local clubs, and probably get a bit more access to the players and whatnot. I'm not sure if they still do that. But
they stopped for. I know when I was at Raw, we weren't allowed to go back.
I think that's something they should try and continue. I mean, I know, girl, you don't want to play all year round. Maybe you will, but I think it's such a good thing, because I could just imagine, like, you know, some of they used to do it with the Raw youth boys, where they would filter them through to the local teams, and you'd get people, you get access, they'd have Raw guys come down, and it just sort of built the code. I think that's something that the women's game did really well. I
think it was post-COVID when that season you talked about, where there was Crummer, Chapman, all at Capalaba. Was it 2020, 2021?
2020, I think.
Yeah, it would have been, because I left there 2019 and the season after.
So I remember looking at like, there's girls like Larissa Crummer for one, who was, I think she was at Melbourne City, maybe. She's banging in goals for someone. But she ended up playing at Capalaba. That's pretty cool.
I think, again, it was, you know, I remember the conversation, being in the conversation with Crummer. We actually went to watch a Raw game up at Redcliffe, and so she lives at Noosa, which is even more impressive, the fact that she played for Capalaba while living in Noosa. So she committed, we were training at the time 3 nights a week, but she committed to 2 sessions a week, and she was at every session. Absolutely not. And she was at 2 sessions every week without fail, and she would drive 2 hours from Noosa.
Proper professional.
And, you know, I remember being in that conversation, and for her, it was always having the feeling of being respected and valued. And obviously, you know, we've all said it, Capalaba was definitely a club that, you know, was really trying to drive the women's program. So, you know, she made that decision to bypass probably at least 5 other clubs to, you know, on her way to training. So, it just
Fair play.
Yeah.
Credit to her.
Probably structure this one a little bit different. Last episode we had the two boys on. It was about captaincy and leadership. Not so much the leadership in terms of being captains or whatnot, but how do you girls see your importance, as obviously all played at the W League level, to being, I guess, leaders or mentors to the younger generation of girls? Like how important is that to you, that you can generally be a kickstart to sort of keep this march forward for the women's football going? Is it an important thing to you? Do you think about it? Is it like, do you feel any stress or?
It's funny for me. I've actually been having these conversations with Dave a lot lately, and he's been talking about the influence that I can have on younger players. And for me, I've always found myself in like a leadership type role, but I've always been more of, actions speak louder than words. So for me, as a leader in a team, I would rather go out and make a big tackle or, get up for a header or put my body on the line to score a goal rather than have, conversations. But I think the older I get and the conversations that I'm having with my coach, I'm kind of realising that it is a lot of that off-pitch stuff that you do as well. Like I said, growing up in the QAS, having those older players around me, I was in awe of them and I was looking up to them, and I know how much of a positive effect they had on me and how it really shaped me as a player and the player that I wanted to become. So for me personally, like I said, the older I get, I've realised it's not as much as about what I do on the pitch. Yes, that's obviously still important, but it's the conversations and your interactions that you're having with those younger girls off the pitch, and how you can really have a positive influence on them with that.
I think on that, like, as you say, like sometimes it's turning up, showing your face, like it means the world to, go and attend, like whether you're reffing mini-roos or turning up to one of the younger girls' games, community events, that plays like a big role in it. Just speaking about age, I always consider myself young because I've always been a younger player. Like, and when you go in the senior teams, you're like, 15 and you're the baby. And it's not until as recent I'm like, I'm old. I'm officially old. We play this game and it's called Cheeky Babes. And there's you're classified into 3 teams. There's the youngies, the middies.
I was about to say, don't tell me it's based on age.
Yeah, and the oldies.
The oldies always win it.
And I just couldn't believe it that once we were in line and I got cut and I was pushed to the oldies, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm officially old.
Took you back to school.
But as Steph said, we always won.
They always win. Experience comes down.
Experience counts for a lot.
It does.
But yeah, definitely, I think like as you do get older, you hold on to traits of particular players that you envy and you try and instill it in yourself. And I suppose, as you say, it's on and off the pitch. So
Yeah, I think pretty similar, I guess. Mine is more so for me, I guess, growing up, whenever I would play my best is when I was having fun and felt confident. So for me, I'm always like the most sort of positive person towards my teammates. Like if someone messes up, I'm like, no, all good, all good. And like, I think that's my sort of thing. I'm always talking, always chatting, whether it's like, and it doesn't have to be like so serious all the time. Like I'm always like the fun one at training. Like if someone falls over, like you make fun of it, but
bully them.
Bully them, but like in a friendly way.
Really laugh in their face.
Yeah,
do it really encouraging.
It brings out the best in everybody. But no, like I think we could probably all say that we've either had that one coach or that one person on the team that just ruins everything, is a plague, and you don't play well. Like, I mean, it's true. Like we've all been there.
Yeah, 100%.
And it happens everywhere, I guess, really. But for me, that's probably my biggest thing. Like I just want everyone having fun and feeling positive, and that's when you get the best out of everyone, and that's when you play well. So yeah, that's probably my biggest thing.
I think you spoke about like, do we feel pressure? I think just on that, like it's really tough for coaches to find that balance, so that it doesn't fall on one individual. You've got to bring the young girls through, but you need to have, you know, more than just one head guiding those people. So I think having balance where you've got more than one role model.
So many different types of leadership. Like there is the quiet ones that will lead by example, and everyone just follows them because they know that he or she gets rolls their sleeves up and just gets into it. Then there's ones that know how to put their arm around somebody. So I think there's a space and there's a time for everything. And I think you're right. Like you'll find that it will just happen throughout a team. You'll have the ones that can talk to the players. You have the ones that will give them a rev up, like the positive ones when there needs to be positive. So it's if you try and do it all, you'll end up crippling yourself because it just affects your own performance.
And I feel like over time that's probably what you realise more so when to be each sort of different type of leader.
I think too that comes with age and maturing as a player.
For sure.
I know when I was a younger player, like I would, say I was have a leadership role, I would focus sometimes too much on that and it would affect your own performance. But as you get older, you're like, comes naturally to you. Like as you get older, you know how to deal with a lot of different people.
I think as well with life experience, like I know when I was coming through when I was young, it was from a coach or from a captain's point of view, it was one size fits all. It's like, no, we do this and you do that or you're out. As you get older, you realise that you break the golden rule of treating people how you want to be treated and you treat them how they want to be treated and then you watch what they can do. So if people are happy with the way they're getting treated and the way they're getting looked after, then I mean, it brings the best out of them, I think. But that it's very hard for a young leader or a young captain to be able to do that effectively, I think.
Without that experience.
Exactly.
Sure.
And you also have to, I guess, be like confident enough in yourself to have tough conversations as well. I think that's probably what everyone would naturally struggle with. Like you have teammates that you love on your team and friends on your team. And sometimes you have to be like, hey, like, why aren't you training more? You know, have those tough little
now.
Things. Or in a game, like the other day, like in one of our games, Sunny Franco like yelled at me. And I messaged her after the game saying, hey, like, thanks for yelling at me. She's like, no, I was going to apologize. I was like, no, like, I was doing the wrong thing. Like, I should have passed to you in that situation. Like, thank you for letting me know. So it's like owning up to those little things and being able to call them out as well is probably like my hardest thing. But again, like, as you get older, you sort of know how to go about them a bit better.
Probably stop taking things personally, and you can see the bigger picture as you get older too. Like you don't just dwell on the such and such. You know what I mean? I know as a young player, especially like as a male player coming up, like you'd have the old school guys coming through, and they would just like hammy, and then like you'd be like beaten, you'd be like all depressed and shit. I remember my very first session.
Didn't have to be so mean about it.
Like they absolutely rip shreds off you, or even like a coach like Big Alan Hunter used to give some of the best sprays you've ever seen. I remember sometimes it's like please don't look at me. It's just like
purely because that was just honestly how he felt.
But that was
his way to communicate.
And it wasn't until I got older that I started to. I was like, you know what? He wasn't such. You know, that was just how he was, and like
it wasn't personal.
No, it's never personal. Well, maybe it was.
They're there to do a job and to get results. And
he did call me a big dumb idiot once.
It
wasn't far off the truth.
He had a good reason to. Tom.
Yeah, he did.
Do you guys feel any more pressure coming back from A-League level to the local NPL, like just having been there? And like, because we're talking about leading by example, but just the fact of having played at a higher level, do you feel that responsibility to set the tone for everyone else?
I definitely did when I first left Raw and went to Capalaba. I don't know why I just put so much pressure on myself, and I had a terrible season. Like, I think because the way that I left Raw, I wasn't ready to leave Raw in that sort of sense, and I was like, I still want to be back there. I want to be in this position. I want to be like this season. I have to be good. So I put my own pressure on, and then it was also like, we've got Lloyd coming, like where our problems are solved. I'm like, like not really, you know what I mean? Like
we'll see about that.
So pressure from like 5 different areas, and then you've got like, you know, even friends and family being like, oh, like you're gonna be so good, and it's like, oh my god, like start stressing out a bit more.
Let me play.
Yeah. So I definitely felt it the first year coming out, and to be honest, I actually like took time off because I like couldn't deal with it. I remember I think we were playing Gold Coast, and I just like I was having an absolute shock, and I was like, I had like a panic attack. I was like, I cannot play this, and I quit. I ended up leaving. This was like just as COVID was starting, I think, and took a few months off, and then sort of went back home and just finished off the season there just to like have fun again. And I think coming out of the W League where it was your job, like it does kill it at times. Like you're like, oh, wake up for training again. You know, it's not like, oh, I get to train today each day.
For the love of doing it.
Yeah. So I sort of lost that sort of love for it a bit, I guess. And then having all that added pressure, I was like, oh, I just couldn't do it anymore. So yeah, it took time off. But since then, like, I think, again, it's just finding that balance. Like I still have pressure on myself this year, like coming out of FQ1 into NPL, and, you know, these people like saying it's a big deal. I'm like, oh, like, you stress yourself out too much. And I was like, I just need to chill out and just like do what I can, and that's all you can do. You know, you obviously try your best each week, and that's all you can do. Hopefully it's good enough, you know, but it's definitely like, yeah, I think for me personally, like I stress about it a lot, probably too much, but yeah, that's me personally.
I think I do feel pressure, but I suppose it's in a sense of keeping myself accountable. Like I want to ensure like I'm pushing myself, that I am improving, I am getting better. But yeah, it is a fine line between having pressure that makes you, you know, perform well, and then there is the pressure of, you know, being so fixated on it where it takes the enjoyment away from it. Or I remember particularly meeting with Rob Askew and just asking, like, I want to be better, like tell me things that I can be better at. And he sat down with me, we went through some video, and he had like a few dot points of what I needed to work on. And I was just so fixated on it that when it came to game day, as you said, it was the opposite. I was just too focused on too many things, and it had a negative effect. So I feel like it's good having, you know, that pressure in wanting to be better, but also not too much to the extent that that's all you're consuming. Like you need to be enjoying it as well as finding that balance.
Play it as you see it.
And I just think, like, I don't know for you guys, but when I was picked up, it was when I was playing my absolute best, because I wasn't thinking. I was just going out there and being like, sweet, get to play soccer. Like, that's when I got picked up, because I was just having so much fun. And I wasn't like, I have to score, like I've got to have a goal a game, like I've got to, I'm only on 12 goals, like this person's, like, I was just playing it, and like we were having so much fun, and that's when we got picked up. So I think like you were saying, like that added pressure, like it doesn't really do anything but deter how you play. Like, because when you just go out there and play, that's when I always seem to have my best games. I'm like, oh, why don't I just do that each week? And next week I'm like, I've got to play like it last week. And then
See, I could only imagine being like a goal scorer, like you're playing up front and having that like constantly in your mind of how many goals you've got, or if you're running for golden boot or something like that, like having that in the back of your mind would be...
I guess it is like a little bit harder, because like we're the ones that are seen.
I feel like it's calculated.
Exactly.
People, you're only as good as
how many your name, and if you don't score, you don't win. So what are you doing? If you're not scoring, we're not winning. It's because of you. Like, it's, I don't know. Pressure.
For me, coming back into NPL from W League was actually quite a pleasant transition. I was more in the opposite sense. I was putting myself under pressure playing W League, and I think obviously because the players that were around me, you know, coming off the bench, you're like, okay, I've got to come on and make an impact. I've got to change the game. I've got to do something. So for me, it was actually quite nice coming back to NPL. I don't think I felt pressure. Like, I knew there were expectations, but I was actually able to take the pressure off myself that I've been putting on myself in W League, and I kind of just started enjoying my football again. So it kind of had a little bit of the opposite effect for me. I was definitely found myself under more pressure in W League than in NPL.
But it's all sort of coming back to the same point of forget the pressure, just enjoy what you're doing.
I think if you know that people have expectations on you, then you also kind of know that there's a certain level of confidence that they have in you to reach that expectation.
But it goes for yourself as well. Like, if you have your own standards high enough, you know that what you're doing, you try and do the right thing.
So
that's it. You do the best you can.
Yeah,
good. NPL's a bit. I mean, the last few years, Lions dominated clearly up until probably the last 6 months or so, where it sort of went off the track. But prior to that, yeah, it's all been pretty much Lions. But now City's emerged, obviously, having. Let's be honest, you walked it last year in the QPL one.
Hey.
Stand by it. But now, you know, doing not walking in NPL, but competing. There's some pretty clear, like a top 3, top 4 that's emerged in the women's NPL. Is that driving the other clubs to aim higher, or is it going more down the path of that's the top 4 and that's how it's going to stay?
I personally think it's driving other clubs because I think City's an example of that. You know, you have your Lions, Gold Coast, East, all those top NPL teams, and then you have City, who've never really been renowned for women's football.
No.
And you guys have really established something that's quite pure and you're progressing quite well. So I think the competition is exactly what is needed. Like, reverse a couple of years ago when Lions were winning every single game, there was complacency. There was, I suppose there wasn't the talent spread across, and it was a bit uneven. Whereas now you watch the games, and you guys would even play the games, and there's no easy game each week.
No.
It's
Is there strength in numbers as far as can another club do that? Like in the next couple of years, what's City have done? Is there enough quality around for another club to have a seat on?
I definitely think. Like, you can even see teams working their way up now. Even, you know, Gold Coast Knights did it in QPL 3 last year.
True.
So I think, I definitely think that, while there are still some gaps, like you'll see the points from top to bottom, there is still that, you know, that gap. But I think we're kind of closing the gap. We don't just have 1 or 2 top teams now. The top 4 are all, you know, quality teams, and there can be a lot of movement at the top. So I think it's with the introduction, you know, I'm a big fan of this. I think with the introduction of the promotion relegation as well, I think that has changed a lot of things. So in previous years, you know, if you weren't a team that was looking at making finals or looking at being in the top 4, then you kind of really didn't have an incentive to play. You didn't have anything to lose. Whereas
like
now, sorry,
like in the A-League.
Whereas now, with promotion relegation, you know, if you're not a team that's in the top 6, then you're at risk of being relegated. So, in answer to your question, like, I think it is, you know, forcing those other clubs to kind of take a step forward and commit to their women's program. If they're not signing better players and they're not getting results, then they're going to end up, you know, being dropped down leagues. And and in fairness, like, we've seen it with the men's NPL as well. That's taken the best part of 10 years for that to become the competition that it is now, that it needed to be. So looks like it's going the same way.
Yeah, I think we spoke about on one of our audio episodes. It's like the top 4. Obviously, City, as you said, weren't renowned for their women's program, but it's always the ones that are investing resources into their women's program that seem to be going to that next level. And I think you'll see a lot more clubs, especially as the Matildas go strength to strength. It'll become more of a thing, I think, and you'll probably see the NPL in the women's become a lot more competitive over the next 5 or 6 years. It just has to.
But also longer term, like, we're talking about all these young girls who are coming to these games, like that's what they're going to be doing. In 10, 15 years time, that's where they want to be, right? So you're just going to have more numbers. Yeah, exactly.
Well, the Battle of the States, Queensland, Victoria, Queensland, New South Wales. I know you two were involved in that. How do you see it? How do you rate the game, and how do you see it progressing? Any ideas on how to make it better? And what do you think of those sorts of representative games?
I was a part of the New South Wales matches. I didn't have the opportunity of playing Melbourne. However, it was something to look forward to at the end of the season, and, you know, your team of the weeks, your appearances, it all kind of contributes to a bigger picture, and I certainly enjoyed it. There was a big hype about it. You know, Football Queensland definitely made a big impact on making it a big deal for everybody.
I think that was COVID year as well. That was 2020. So I think the fact that the game even went ahead, we were all pretty excited because there'd been so many the season was postponed. We went into lockdown.
Yeah.
So there've been so many setbacks
Well,
that
it's
year.
not a season.
Didn't it pour down rain as well?
It did.
Like,
It was absolutely. I
So
did
even
not
that, you're
think
like,
the
is it
game
gonna
was going to
happen
go
or-
ahead. Yeah, and just to allow New South Wales to travel up to
Yeah.
play the game. But like you said, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a reward for the players and the coaches that have had outstanding seasons. And it's not only that; it's actually a really good opportunity to play alongside players that you only ever get to play against.
Yeah.
So, and be coached by players that you're not normally coached by. So, I think it's a really good opportunity. In terms of improving it, I think if money and time weren't an issue, which they always are, I would love to see it played like a full State of Origin series.
Yeah.
That
So
would be cool.
like
Yeah,
either
that'd
3
be sweet.
games where you've got like a home, away, and a neutral, or even just I like the idea of what they've brought into. Didn't know they were doing it, but what they brought into the A-League women's semi-finals. So they're playing a home and away game, and they just basically tally the goals.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think having something like that, it
Yeah,
means
at least a 2-legged.
you've got at
Yeah.
least it takes away any sort of home advantage,
and you get a trip away.
and you get a trip away as well. And I think as well, like we've only ever had in those games, we've only ever had like a maximum of 2 training sessions together. It's just not enough. Like if you're extending it over a couple of weeks, then you get a couple of weeks training together. I think you're setting up to watch a better match as well.
Would you be willing to still do that if it was 2 weeks post-season?
Yeah,
Or 3 weeks or a month, whatever
It's
it is.
I think we
feel
did
like
2
there's always
sessions a
gonna be
week.
People
Yeah.
that are keen to do that, especially for
Yeah.
like the young girls that haven't had that opportunity yet. Like
Yeah.
if the older ones or people that are usually picked can't do it, it's like, oh sweet, now I get to go. Like
Yeah.
So either way, like there'd be so
As I
many
say, I
girls
think,
out there.
free trip away.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't?
I love State of Origin. Like,
Yeah.
imagine
Yeah.
having
The
that atmosphere
rivalry.
for
Exactly.
football.
It would be
That
so
cool.
crazy.
It would be so
Like,
good.
I
The
can't
atmosphere
play.
on that night was
Yeah.
insane. Like the game went to penalties.
Yeah.
Was it 2 or 3 all at full time? I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it was
So
an
I think,
absolute
like,
blank. But
I agree. At least a 2-legger, but
yeah,
if you can make an aggregate score across the men's and the women's game,
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that
That's cool.
could be interesting as
Yeah,
well.
definitely.
I think also like with only having one game, there's a pressure of the coach having to play everyone. So
Yeah,
you
true.
only get
Yeah.
like
That's it.
You're
Yeah.
not there to
a
win a
few
game.
minutes.
It's like, hey, everyone, let's have a good
Yeah.
experience.
I think
Yeah.
that year we also played the Raw as well.
Yeah.
Which was another good opportunity, and it's a good opportunity for the Raw to have a preseason game against
Yeah.
the best players in the NPL.
Mm.
So, I think that could be.
I think
Something.
the boys last week pretty much had the same opinion. That I'm not too sure if it's the best structure at the moment, but it has to stay, and we have
Yeah,
to try and improve
absolutely.
on
in
it.
some format.
Yeah, even if there's like some sort of tri series where you have Queensland, New South Wales, and Victoria, and it's sort of like a round robin or something
that'd
like
be
that.
cool.
Time is obviously
Yeah.
money is obviously
Yep.
the biggest factor
Usual,
here, but
yeah.
needs to stay, and obviously it's awesome to see the players get rewarded for having a good season,
Yeah,
and you generally picking the best team,
Mhm.
whether or not the best team can play with availabilities and whatnot, but it's definitely a good reward.
Yeah, I think I've been picked each time, but I've been injured, and I'm like,
Yeah.
come on. This year. Come on.
Maybe this year then,
Yeah,
eh?
maybe.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Finish it off, bit of a quick fire. Best you played with, we'll start with you, Abbey.
Obviously Katrina Gorry is up there for sure.
Fair. It's a pretty solid start.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just one or like
just
best
just
you
the
played
one,
with,
just the
yeah.
best ever.
yeah, I'd probably have to go mini. Yeah.
One
Right,
one,
yeah, I'd
Steph?
say
Yeah.
Polks or Mini.
Yeah, Pogs
For
or
sure.
mini.
Mini. She's just an all
Votes are
rounder.
in.
She's
Big mini
just
fans.
unreal.
Yeah.
I feel like her presence on and off the pitch
Yeah.
is just unreal, and she's awesome.
Mm.
Just overall, like you see her energy and it just ripples through the team.
Another
Yeah,
one
sure.
who had an outstanding World Cup too.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was everywhere.
Yeah.
How about the best you played against?
Courtney Vine.
Should be saying the same against you.
I'm going to say Heather Garriock, who played for New South Wales. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't really like play against it, but I did win the ball off her with a Sam Kerr. So
Okay.
and I got a picture to
Picture card.
I mean,
Really cool.
even if I stepped on the same pitch as something, I probably would have said Sam Kerr.
I was dying too. It was like a 12 o'clock game at Suncorp, and I was on the one side with all the sun, and I'm like running, chasing Sam Kerr, and I was like, this is great for me. So, but yeah.
Not many people can say that.
I know,
Yeah.
exactly. So I'm proud of that.
Way to go.
Yeah.
What about the best coach? Juniors, seniors, anyway.
I'm
Starting
winding
teams.
back to East. Jeff Herford was
Big
definitely,
Herf.
yeah,
Big Herf.
I loved him as a coach.
I've had Herf as well. Have you had Herf, coach?
I played with
him,
Herf, yeah.
I played with him and had big coach.
He's just
He's-
like so strict, like black and white, will tell you exactly what you're
Yeah.
doing well, what you're not doing well.
My wife got coached by Herf, and she still has nightmares.
It's not for everyone.
Cool's back playing for Herf now at Annalise, so
Yeah, no, I feel like he had a big sense of belief in me and definitely, stepped me up from juniors to play the senior role. And yeah, I really liked his style of coaching. So
Good fella, Herf.
yeah.
good on you, Herf.
Yeah.
A little shout out on the
Shout
pod.
out to her.
Big fan of the show.
Thanks,
Steph, best coach.
I've been really lucky. I've had a few, obviously Ray Dow, Mel Andrietta, Jeff Hopkins, and even Dave now. He's managed to get a lot out of me as a player, as a senior player. But the one person who has definitely got me to where I was, as sappy as it is my dad. He's coached me from day dot, and even now we watch back games together, and he'll break down. Yeah, he without fail.
Wrong.
The drive home from game is always on the phone to dad, and he'll tell me what he saw in the game, and we break it down together. And yeah,
That
so
seems really nice. My
it's
dad's
actually
black.
he's also kind of like Herf though. He's very black and white.
That's true, but
Yeah, he'll just tell you how it is. There's no sugarcoating it.
Good.
That's nice. I mean, obviously Mel Andrietta was massive with me. Very supportive as well, which was great. But I'd probably have to say my high school coach, who obviously got me started in football, and pretty much, yeah, he was like a dad to me in high school, to be fair. So yeah, I'd probably have to say Peter Broadford. He's the GOAT in Toowoomba. So,
T-Bar go.
Yeah.
Bit of a big deal up the range, isn't it?
He is. No, he's a great coach, and he was our soccer specialty sort of coach in school, and yeah, he was unreal. The amount of stuff I learned from him, still do it now, and I'm just so grateful for him, for sure.
Good.
last but not least, best 3 on a night out.
One,
real
two,
tough, real tough, hard-hitting questions.
I mentioned her name before, but definitely Sonny Franco is,
Yeah.
is definitely one
She's
to
wild.
go out with.
Yeah.
And Isabella Shuttleworth, she's also fun, night out.
Does that mean you're putting yourself as the third in this?
Oh,
thing?
okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Actually, Tara O'Keefe, she's
fun.
she's always up for a boogie.
Yeah, she is up for a boogie.
All right,
Good.
I'm still thinking.
Yeah.
We can go with Steph if
There's
we need to
been
come
a lot,
back.
to be fair. Yeah, do you have one?
As soon as you say the words night out, and if you're talking about Brisbane City, it's got to be JD and Hallie. They are always up for a big night. But yeah, I definitely have to. George Worth, our goalkeeper, she's good for a night out as well, and probably Lainey. She's Lainey Fryer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Still thinking?
I've had a lot of good nights. I'm
I just can't remember who was with you. So
Yeah.
trying
I'm
to.
pretty sure there's 3
Well,
other
no,
people with
it's
me.
me.
I don't think it was just me.
I definitely was there. No, I'd have to. I've had some great times with Minnie, to be fair. She's got to be in there. Probably Minnie, Macca, Mackenzie Arnold, and Carson Pickett. Those 3 are
So the
great.
couple
Pick
of
was
the
the American that came
Yeah,
out?
yeah,
couple of the Matildas like to boogie, eh?
they do. They love a boogie.
Nice
We
one.
love dancing.
So does Justin. Justin loves a boogie.
Big dancer.
Get him away from the pokies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's us.
That's us, eh? It's been a good one.
Yeah.
thanks for coming on, celebrating Female Football Week. Hope you've enjoyed it.
Thanks for having us.
Good.
So he's managed to get the cream of the women's football in Queensland on with us.
Yeah, so, we've been trying to get some women involved in our podcast. And trying pretty hard, but
it hasn't worked out so far. Obviously, with a bit more notice, Teags, we've got you here tonight as opposed to last time. But
yes,
it's good. We have definitely we talk about it a lot.
Yeah,
because it's a question that gets asked. Why we don't cover more of the women's game, and we don't know enough about it to do it justice. So we need to get the likes of yourselves on here to talk about it and talk the game up, because it's going in the right direction, obviously, but it needs to keep going.
Keep doing what you're doing, because I think the more sort of girls that sort of try and a path, like trailblazers, as they would say, just keep going on from the girls that you've looked up to, because as you all said, there's young girls, even young boys that are coming through looking up to you guys. So no pressure, but keep doing what you're doing, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hooroo.